Hello and welcome to yet another cast. For you today I have a custom 4v4 played on Seton's Clutch, the infamous map. Everyone has an opinion on it, a lot of people like it, a lot of people hate it. But yes, today's game, Seton's Clutch. Once again. We have team 1 up in the north, team 2 down the south, and let's introduce the northern team starting at the southernmost position on the rock slot. In piss yellow, going UEF and opening first land, we have Check. Then to the west of that, or northwest, in the regal purple, going Aeon and opening first land, already moving mid, we have Master Fantasta on the front slot. Then, to the north of that, in green, also going Aeon and also opening first land, we have Nick, who sent me this replay. Then, to the east, in hot pink, going Aeon as well, lots of Aeons in the northern team, and opening first land, in the air slot, we have Tsar, or Caesar. I will just shorten that to Tsar, because I think that's what that is supposed to be, or supposed to be pronounced as. Now, for the southern team, starting once again on the rock slot in red, going Aeon, opening first air, we have Lagavulin 16. I will just stick with Lagavulin. Then, to the east of that, already moving towards the middle, we have just beginning in normal pink, going Cypern and opening first land on the front slot. To the south of that, also already moving towards the mid, in dark blue, going Aeon, opening first land, we have Dolboyab, going Aeon. Not sure if I point out that they are also going first land in dark blue. No, I definitely have pointed that out. And last but not least, in the back slot for the southern team, in yellow, going UEF, opening first land, we have Legate Pit as the southern air player. Right, that's introductions out of the way. Let's say some stuff about the map. It's Seton's Clutch. We have large reclaimed field right down here in the middle. Second, let's pull that up. Around 12k mass, just in the middle to be reclaimed. So what you typically see is that the front players move to the middle early on to collect all of that juicy mass. Different thing we also tend to see, and we also see right here, is that the beach players on the respective teams also move up towards the middle to support their front players, and also snag a bit of additional reclaim. Now, the second thing to point out about the map, we have these side islands off the coast of the rock players, or the cliff players up here, and right here. Those are usually dropped early on by around 3 minutes from the rock players. We can already see the transport right here going out for Lagavulin. Transport for Check, however, seems to be a bit late. The reason that the slot is called rock slot is, well, you have this massive rock as a cliff, but you also have a bunch of nice juicy rocks that allow some early ecoing worth around 600 mass. But yes, the side islands worth 5 maxes. Definitely important to pick up, as those tend to give an economic advantage to the rock players. And the last thing that is important to understand how Seton's is played is right here in the back, the air player. The meta for Seton's, and especially the air player, is very, very strict nowadays, meaning that and has just solidified into a state where the air player rushes T3 air, and well, early on economy and after that T3 air, to get that as fast as possible, allowing the air player to usually get T3 air if they are good at around 9 minutes. However, up to that point, the air player will not build any air, and T1 and T2 air is handled by all other players. Now, what we can currently see happening in the game is that a hunter out from Just Beginning ran around into the backline of the air player, killed off a engineer, and of course very devastatingly destroyed the tree clumps. For those who do not know, trees in Subcom are often, when making maps, clumped together in just massive clumps that can be reclaimed as basically one piece. Let's see it here. Yep, you can see just a whole collection of trees vanishing when those get reclaimed. And those tend to be a lot faster to reclaim. However, if you run something through those and knock over a few trees, that will result in those tree clumps being broken up and each tree being its own separate reclaim entity. As you can see right here, where those engineers need to reclaim every tree manually. Well, not manually, but each tree on its own. In the areas where that light assault bot ran through. That can be very annoying because it will generally make the reclaiming process a lot slower. ACU's tangling in the middle between Master Fantaster and Dolboyop. Master Fantaster already into the yellow and pulling back into the northern pond. In the meantime, Nick taking fire from Just Beginning. Both of them in the yellow. However, Just Beginning a lot lower on health, it looks like at 4.4k HP, while Nick is at 7k HP. So this could be very dangerous for Just Beginning. And we now do also have the ACU for Master Fantaster moving in. So Just Beginning definitely under massive threat here of dying. Down below 3k HP. Down into the red now, below 2k HP. Walking into the water, being walked down by the purple player. And seemingly successfully making it into the water. However, mass amounts of reclaim factories now being built up by Master Fantaster, and that's a very, very smooth name to say for me, so I don't know, there's something, that name just rolls off the tongue, I guess. Those factories being built up at the front. In contrast to that, however, factories from Just Beginning more built up in the base, meaning that they are already mostly up, and there's already a sizable amount of spam being produced. Just Beginning going for stealth to increase the survivability of the ACU for a bit, I guess. And in the meantime pushing forward with the spam that I mentioned earlier. And that is probably enough to be a massive threat to the ACU. And Nick pulls back, pointing out that there are, well, no units mid, and that is not a good thing. Master Fantaster gets surrounded, however. With some nice overcharges, they seem to be able to deal with the units for now. And right. With the, as this currently does look like the front will be lost, Nick suggests building T2PD in the main base. However, there is a relatively small amount of aggression, and it looks like Purple will be able to hold on to their frontline position with those factories. And as soon as more of these do come online, that will definitely allow the mass production of a lot of units, which will become very powerful. The gun upgrade now started, starting with gun range. That will also be very powerful. And let's see, anything else going on around the map? We are at almost 9 minutes. Let's take a short look at the air players, and 50% done on T3R for Legged Pit. Around the 9-minute mark. Basically what we would be expecting, and so slightly behind at 18% on the T3 RHQ. Not quite up to schedule that some other players might achieve, however, this isn't, we are not talking about some 2400 rated players, we are talking about a 1700 in the case of Tsar and 1600 for Legged Pit. I feel like it's still a very good time. That is the rating. That is, as far as I'm aware, still mostly acceptable in most rating ranges as a timing. T1 bomber out for just beginning, snipes the frontline radar right here. Taking out the vision. That can cause some issues. There's currently no massive scouting going on overhead either, so yes, it could be dangerous. Massive Fantasta with double gun now. Marching forward, trying to get Dolboy up by the looks of it. Gun upgrade now also underway for just beginning. With that, they will basically be equal to Massive Fantasta. Well, no, they will be more than equal, as they will also have the the stealth upgrade, which provides additional HP and I think also a slight bit of additional regen. ACU for Dolboy now taking a lot of fire. The gun upgrade is almost done, or the gun speed upgrade at least. However, without gun range, that ACU will not be able to fire back, meaning that it will take a lot of damage before it can actually return fire properly. Now also taking fire from the units, that's not a great start. Some slight naval engaging going on between Lagavulin and Nick. Just with some submarines. Nothing too major, no real aggression going on here. Nick, by the looks of it, also not focusing too much on Navy, but instead building up a strong economy. Being on 42 maxes and almost fully capped on those. At 11 minutes. Which, if we take a look at it, means that he is not far behind his opponent. Now, just beginning did return to land and is now being walked down by Massive Fantasta. Now, however, also under pressure from Purple's units, from Massive Fantasta's units, and thus losing HP at a very, very rapid rate. Now, Massive Fantasta also taking a lot of damage from those Mantis and its BAM, but not quite as much as just beginning. Who is down into the red, below 1k HP and at this point basically guaranteed to die. Below 500 HP, just a few more shots and there they go. They have perished. So that gun commander definitely doing its job. First ejection at 12 minutes for the Southern team. Stuff gets inherited by Lagavulin, who immediately gifts it over to their teammate Boyop, since they are already on the front in the area, so it makes sense. This is played on full share. And with that, well, they do now upgrade range on the ACU as well. They are now, of course, also sitting on double base, so they will have a eco advantage, now sitting at 160 mass income. However, Nick's eco endeavor is definitely paying off, as he is already at 173 mass income. Well, 166, lot of fluctuation going on. But currently, highest mass, never mind the Legate, Pit is actually at 170, but still Nick at a contender for highest mass income. At, well, either second or third place with fluctuation. Definitely in a very good position right now. And definitely capable of keeping up with his opponent, even though he does not hold the side island. As Fantasta continues a slow push with the ACU. Gun advanced ranged finishes for Dolboyop. A upgrade special to the Aeon. Now the gun range and gun speed being split is already special to the Aeon, as all other factions have both of that as one gun upgrade. But in addition to that, the Aeon also have a advanced gun range upgrade. Normal gun range means that the range is the same as for a normal gun commander on the other factions. However, advanced range gives a slight bonus to that as well, meaning that the ACU can technically outrange any other ACU, as long as it's not an Aeon ACU with advanced range. Definitely a powerful upgrade there. We have some Navy tangling down in the south between Veranichek and Dolboyop. However, it looks like Dolboyop currently has the upper hand with more numbers. I was about to say also with the destroyer, but I also see that there's a Valiant class destroyer out for Veranichek. So both players down there at T2 Navy. Tangling, but it looks like Dolboyop can definitely defend that, forcing Veranichek to pull back for now. Let's look up north. T2 Navy has been achieved by Lagavulin. Not by Nick, however, who is currently now on 2 factories. Still not on a lot. And definitely being outproduced right now by his opponent. Which can be dangerous if Lagavulin does notice that they could technically just push in and there's not much Nick could do to stop that. While he does have the upper hand on eco, he does not have the upper hand on pure unit count. And I just noticed it in the last moment. Master Fantasta walks down Dolboyop, meaning that that is already the second ejection of the game. Seton team now down 2 players. Both the front and the beach player. Both of those bases get gifted over to Lagavulin, as the highest rated player still left in the game. But that is a massive player advantage for the Northern team now, in terms of APM. However, it also means that Lagavulin has a massive eco advantage over Nick. But at the same time, looking at the other players, combined, the Northern team is still slightly ahead on Master Cup. There are, of course, destroyers up here now as well in the northern pond, slowly bombarding the shoreline. But there is T2 PD and also already T2 RT built up in a small firebase. T2 artillery very effective at dealing with T2 Navy that is used as a bombardment force. Not very effective at T3 due to the high range of battleships, since a battleship cannot range a T2 artillery installation. But as long as they are at the T2 stage, that will be completely sufficient. In defending that. Some bombardment now also coming in from the south. And small airfight does ensue. It looks like this one will be won by Saar, who already has started building restorers, in addition to their ASF. And has just taken early air control. Restorers, very powerful, also very powerful in terms of anti-air. However, it's still worth building ASF as the Aeon, as the restorers are very slow and thus have a hard time intercepting. But especially in airfights like those, they can be a valuable bit of additional firepower, as once again, they have very powerful anti-air. They are called anti-air gunships for a good reason, or AA gunships. And, well, if they are kept at the side of that, they can just keep pumping that in, since they don't need to be orientated the right way like ASF do. And they are also very tanky at 6k HP, compared to the 2.25k on the ASF. So almost triple the HP pool. The firebase of Master Fantasta ends up being lost due to the shop bombardment. There are now the restorers coming in, taking out the destroyers. One of the downside that Aeon Navy does definitely have is that it is not equipped with any kind of anti-air firepower, except for the dedicated anti-air ships, cruisers and shards. Meaning that, well, yeah, restorers, gunships, and generally any form of naval bombers or bombers are very effective in dealing with Aeon Navy. We do now also have a few cruisers coming out for Veranichak. Well, cruisers aren't great in a straight-up engage, at least the UEF cruisers. Their missiles do become very useful in bombarding any kind of stationary navy that's a bit further away. And they are also very useful just for the anti-aircraft firepower, as cruisers are very effective in taking out any kind of air. Not very tanky, so they still need to be protected, and large amounts of torp bombers or gunships can still take out cruisers, but they still have very potent AA, so they should not be underestimated. Restorers do now push in. It looks like they are going in onto a raid onto the front base, and yep, there they go. Taking out some core infrastructure right here. That looks of it, some mexes. Currently no proper air response being done due to the well, current air situation. Well, there comes an air response. But there are already 3 mexes lost to those gunships, as well as a whole bunch of engineers. That is going to be very painful to lose. Nick now starting mass production of units after building up a powerful economy, already with 2 quantum gateways and a whole bunch of T3 mass fabricators, up to almost 400 mass income, second only behind Lagavulin, who is on triple base, sitting at 600. But the Team 2 actually still had a mass income overall though, with Legate Pit being at around 300 mass. Meaning that overall there is still more mass income to go, or more mass to go around for the Southern team than for the Northern team. A bunch of engineers being dropped by Master Fantasta into the northern pond. Down south, it looks like the forces of Veranichak did end up collapsing, mostly, or at least they were forced to push back. I haven't paid attention to that for a bit. We do now see battleships in the southern pond already firing into the navy, and those will be very hard to counter without any battleships of their own for the northern team, due to the high damage output and high range. Those tend to force the enemy to get in very close to take out, and in that time a lot of damage can be done. Battle cruisers being built up by Veranichak, however, I think that is a misplay, as battle cruisers are still outranged by battleships, and it is the best solution for battleships is generally other battleships. In the traditional way, at least. Battlecruisers are very effective against T2 and T1 Navy, but they are rather lacking when it comes to fighting T3 Navy, due to the very low range. Mass production of frigates is being done by Master Fantasta in the southern pond, with a lot of T1 factories, as well as a T2 HQ, but I'm not sure if that will suffice. It looks like it might be just about enough to force Lagavulin to pull back for now, in addition to some gunships now coming in for Saar. But that is not a great state of things. And we can see that with all of these battleships, the defense of the area is coming at a very great cost, as there are heavy losses suffered on the sides of the northern team in order to push that back. More battlecruisers do come out and there are no battleships in queue. Once again, I feel like there should definitely be some battleships built up. The Summit is a very, very powerful battleship. And if kept at range, it outranges the Omen by a significant amount. If I remember correctly, the Omen has a range of 110, while the Summit has a range of 150. That is a massive difference. And while the Omen does have higher DPS, the range allows the Summit to still do a much, much better job, if properly microed. Okay, with most of the forces now dead after defending, looks like a second push is stopped by Lagavulin, after also receiving some reinforcements again. Pushing in with what looks like 3 battleships and a supporting navy of destroyers and frigates. Another battleship also already underway. Let's see, how's it looking up north? We do have a sizable force of Exodus currently pushing in for Nick, taking out naval factories on the northern side. However, Nick currently still stuck at T2 Navy. He did build SMD. Is there a nuke scouted? And yes, there is, right here. So that is definitely there for a good reason. But with more battleships coming out in the north as well, Nick will be forced to start building battleships of his own as well, because otherwise he's gonna have a hard time properly defending against us. We do of course have the Summit being built up by Master Fantaster, but that will still take a lot of time to complete. And a lot of losses have been taken, as already pointed out, in the southern pond. Rennicek basically completely out of boats now. Well, not completely, but very low on boats. And the battlecruisers also not able to do a great amount of damage against those omens. Something that could help would possibly be shield boats, but I don't see any of those being built up either. And with that, Southern Pond is not looking great. It's looking rather bleak, to be honest. Cruisers, or normal cruisers, tend to have a very hard time in dealing with the battleships, as they do have tactical missile defense, which will just defend against the ballistic missiles from the governors. And we can just see those Neptunes going down to battleship fire, without Neptune being able to do too much against that. The Southern Navy seems to be lost for now. How is it going up north? Nick is putting a lot of assistance onto the construction of the T3 HQ, at 83% now. And also now again a lot of assistance to pump out more destroyers. Sending in the circles that he built up as well now to support. And also more build power to build the Tempest has been dropped off by Master Fantaster. As it seems that the northern team is aware of the bleak situation in the northern pond as well, and trying to rectify that as fast as possible. Nick now at over 700 mass income, around 740 to be precise. However, Lagavulin at a whopping 900 mass income. again, not too surprising, as they are sitting on a triple base. And just the amount of T3 maxes they can build with that is, let's say, impressive. And allows for a great advantage. And looks like that mass is purely in T3 maxes right now, as I cannot see any mass fabricators. Yep. Airfight about to happen between Legged Pit and Saar. And right before that happens, let's see, we have around 112 ASF for Saar and Legged Pit at 141. So Southern team currently ahead on air numbers. Here's the airfight, and well, it looks like the air force of Legged Pit is staying much tighter, and it looks like that will be, well, with the restorers coming in as well. It's getting close. There were some reinforcements for Legged Pit, but I think, yep, those did actually shift in the end. It did add the required numbers to completely wipe the air force of Saar, and with that, Southern team does take the air win. It was looking very close for a few moments there, but I feel like the reinforcing ASF did definitely change the tide of that airfight after those restorers came in. Now, that's not a great situation for the northern team. More air factories split up by Saar, expanding the air grid. But I feel like the restore production needs to be stopped for now to get back into mass ASF production. However, by the looks of it, all of these factories are primarily focused on building restorers as the main part of their building queue. Their factories are currently paused. What is being invested into? They are overflowing mass and power, or well, currently floating mass and power. I'm not sure why that air grid is currently paused. Never mind, it's unpaused. But as expected, in the south, the Navy, not the air, I mean the air as well, but primarily the Navy, did end up collapsing. We also do have a land push of bricks coming through the middle. There's a nuke. Where's that going? It's going after the Navy factory the Navy factories of Nick. However, that SMD is loaded, so that will not succeed. Tempest does end up finishing. Seemingly having a hard time talking today. Sorry about that. And Nick, now also with his own battleships, start pushing forward with the overwhelming numbers of destroyers as well. And by the looks of it, achieving great success with that for now. Mass store bombers being employed by Legged Pit to try and help out there. Nick's solution, who has sent over a bunch of Zakos into the water, is to build up both Flag and SAMs to deal with that. With the amount of top bombers, I feel like Flag is possibly the better solution here, as it's not only built faster, but also deals great with big collections of units. But the better tracking on the SAMs is also going to be very useful. The combination of the two will be able to shred that force, it feels like, I'm pretty sure. And those top bombers. Of course, not before they will get a drop off, because, well, preventing you need to intercept bombers to prevent them from dropping, and generally AA is not enough for that, especially if you build it on the position that is currently being attacked. And there are a lot more top bombers coming in. So it looks like the AA will not actually be enough to deal with all of that. A lot of top bombers were shot down, but I guess it was just too many, and thus we do now see a lot of these rare cycles going down for Nick. Which is, well, very bad for Nick, as that is, of course, a sizable chunk of economy. Each rare cycle producing 11 mass. More anti-air being built up now. Nick now up to 900 mass income, Lagavulin in the meantime at 872, so it looks like Nick has once again surpassed Lagavulin's mass income, never mind. They just jumped up to 1.1k, lot of fluctuation going on. Possibly power related. Yep, they are currently power stalling, which has the downside of mass extractors and mass fabricators stop working if you do not have enough power to run them. So they will just continue flickering on and off. Which is not a great, it's not a great situation to be in. And though, quite frankly, I'm confused where all of that mass is being built, as I still do not see any mass fabricators. There's a mass fab grid that has just been started, but I cannot see any that are currently done. Interesting. The Tempest of Master Phantasta has submerged after taking a lot of fire. There are now a lot of battleships, and they currently seem to be numbers-wise in favor of Lagavulin, meaning that Nick is forced to fall back, currently being behind on those numbers. Starting to build up a wall of wave breakers, the T2 torpedo launchers of the Aeon, trying to just cause, well, attritional damage to the navy that is pushing in by using those torpedo launchers. And definitely taking out a whole bunch of frigates with that. It's a, well, I wouldn't say it's a good strategy, but it's definitely a panic strategy. And when you're on the retreat, it might allow to delay the inevitable. Possibly delay it enough to actually build up other stuff that you might need to properly defend. Now there are more bricks pushing in, and the loss of the navy in the south meant that Ranicek has lost their entire base. Something that Legate Pit is now capitalizing on, sending a bunch of engineers in to, by the looks of it, claim that base. In the meantime, Lagavulin just sending engineers forward to grab the maxes that once belonged to Master Phantasta, and expanding the eco that way, without the use of mass fabricators. Gunships once again being utilized down in the south. Nick also built a Galactic Colossus, sent into the water just enough to still have the head peeking out, meaning that it can beam down those ships, once again causing heavy damage right there. And with this, it does look like Nick will be able to defend the area and push his opponent back. The Tempest has surfaced once again, now using its mobile factory, a feature that I feel like is generally underused a lot, but also allowing those main battery guns to fire once again and to get more damage in, which, now that it has wetted due to that, will allow it to slowly regenerate its health pool, giving it some more, well, making it more useful now. But a large number of battleships now built up by Nick. Well, not a moment too soon. That is for sure, because yeah, it was very late for those, and just about in time to actually hold off the push from Lagavulin. Else, if those would have been built up a bit later, it is very likely that Nick would have also lost the Northern Navy right there. While his eco-whoring did end up paying off by the looks of it, it was a very risky strategy, as that way he did not have the unit count to contend with his opponent. And that's something I want to point out to anyone who goes for heavy eco strategies, or very greedy strategies. It can definitely work, and if you're certain that it can work, absolutely go for it. But if it doesn't, and your opponent realizes that you're spending too much eco on more eco instead of units, you're doomed. We do have bricks pushing in further and further. The ASU of Ranicek now very low on health. And Lobos from Legate Pit now also being built up. Just as mass spam in the base that once belonged to Ranicek. Meaning that, well, there is now the land invasion of the northern, northern area has started, the northern peninsula. Ranicek taking a lot of artillery fire down below 1k HP. And continuing to take damage from those Lobos. I think that ASU is basically doomed at this point. Air engage ensues overhead. At ASU at 700 HP. Air fight happens. I'm pretty sure Legate Pit is at higher air numbers. Yup. And even if they weren't, I guess they just had better turns, and they end up winning the air game once again. Ranicek does go down to the Lobo spam of Legate Pit. And this is now looking extremely bad for the northern team. After getting those early 2 ejections, they are now definitely behind on map control, behind on eco. Team 2 at 1.8k mass income, Team 1 just at 1.3k. 1k of that just from Nick, who still has his base mostly intact. But that's not a good position. Those bricks that I pointed out earlier have successfully made it into the airbase of Zal, meaning that air win that we saw earlier is basically a final state now, at least for the time being, until a new airbase can be established, or a new bigger air grid. Or possibly until Nick builds up more aircraft carriers. There are currently, by the looks of it, 3 on the field that can slowly build ASF. But more will definitely be needed if he intends to contest air with those. Especially because he's about to lose one. 2 mass top bombers. And there it goes. Secondary air grid now also taking a lot of fire from those bricks. Master Fantasta sending an ASU in, trying to deal with those, with that T1 RT. Trying to just reduce the amount of damage that is currently being taken. And definitely getting a lot of kills right here. However, that is most likely not going to be sufficient to deal with this. Nick sees writing on the wall that land is almost certainly lost, moves that ASU into the water to get safe from all of that artillery. Now, one advantage he does have is that a major amount of his economy is in Zakus. Let's make a Zaku count. We're looking at 44 Zakus, that's 440 mass income, just in support commanders. And knowing Nick, I have played with him multiple times in the past, he will continue building Zakus as long as he can, pumping possibly as much eco into it just to get that mobile economy. Just so he can keep up the fight. Top bombers are being utilized by Legate Pit in the northern pond, trying to deal with a massive battleship force built up by Nick that ended up crushing the northern navy of Lagavulin and has now established a naval lock. The presence of aircraft carriers in that force means that a lot of top bombers are actually required to successfully deal with that. Aircraft carriers with very, very powerful anti-air. However, they do end up dying now. More aircraft carriers, however, being sent in by Nick. And this looks like it's a response to the loss of the air grid and the victory of the naval game. One of the big downsides of those aircraft carriers is that they cannot actually fight or engage Navy. However, now that Nick has, well, definitely won the naval game, the biggest threat in the Northern Pond comes from the air, so I guess it's the logical answer to go for something that allows them to keep the airs clean. And let's count. And 37 Kiefer-class aircraft carriers will definitely achieve that. No questions asked. The second thing, of course, they are aircraft carriers and as such capable of producing air units. Meaning that even without an air grid, Nick now has the air build power that is most likely required to contest with the air grid of Legate Pit. He is losing a lot of Psychos due to a triple Monkey Lord push, and is also most likely going to lose his mass fabricators very soon, and his naval factories. However, he has a sizable amount of Ras Psychos in the water, basically safe from most things, meaning that even after that he will still have a sizable economy to rely on.
Strategic launch detected.
Another nuke launched by Legate Pit. Where's that going? And that is going right here after into the naval base, or what remains of the naval base of Nick. The HQ is lost, most of the units there are gone. Nick currently still bidding up 1 GC. If those Psychos stay there, they will most likely die to the nuke blast. But that GC going up very fast, so they might be able to finish that and move away in time. Let's see. Or they might be just out of blast range. Okay, Nick sees the missile, moves them away. Sa decides to control K, seeing that, or thinking that there's no more chance. Psychos do actually move out of blast range of the nuke, so construction on that GC can be continued. Another GC moves into, actually moves on to attacking the Monkey Lords now. Though with 5 ranks of veterancy and basically full HP, those Monkey Lords are exceptionally tanky at a whopping 67,000 HP. Not quite comparable to the double-wetted GC at almost 120,000 HP, but with the power of those microwave lasers, that is still a very, very dangerous unit. But mass T1 bombers, T2 PD and the GC will actually be able to take out all 3 of those Monkey Lords, even though they are rather tanky. There is a defense satellite out for Legate Pit, and Nick basically lost most of his, well, not most of his, yes, most of his, there's actually still some left, but the majority of his economy right here, or land-based economy, is lost. What was that? I think that might have been an SMD. Built up, is, considering the fact that this was nuked, apparently. But Nick down to about 500 mass income now. However, sitting on a massive reclaim field, which will probably be able to keep him going for quite some time, with approximately 150,000 mass in the ocean. And considering all the aircraft carriers being able to shoot down the air flying overhead, possibly even more, as that number will be ever increasing. Massive wave of strike bombers does move in. Looks like a desperate attempt to take out some of the crucial navy right here. Most importantly, those aircraft carriers. But we have to remember that the strat bombers are extremely expensive, and that is a massive investment that will not come back. I don't think that was worth it. All of those bombers lost in return for taking out a singular aircraft carrier that can still be mostly reclaimed. Well, not mostly, but still can be reclaimed. Just beginning pointing out that there's just too much area in the northern pond to do anything, and that is absolutely correct. At some amount of aircraft carriers it becomes almost impossible to properly defend against it. Well, okay, no, it becomes very easy to defend against aircraft carriers because, again, they don't have direct fire. But it becomes very difficult to actually engage that with air, just due to the massive cloud of just anti-aircraft firepower there. Another nuke launched right here at the collection of Rasakus. The Rasakus immediately spread out, and with the way they are spread out, it looks like Nick just sent out a shit ton of move commands for the entire group and then pressed Shift G, meaning that all of those commands are spread out throughout the entire force, meaning that he will not have a large number of Rasakus in one place, but instead a large group of, or a lot of smaller groups, meaning that even with carpet nuking, he will be able to hold on to most of his economy now. The defense satellite, the Novak, slowly taking out the aircraft carriers, but that is by no means fast enough to actually deal with the massive amount here. And all of those battlefields also building a lot of air. Nick actually with a respectable air force of 61 ASF. Nowhere near the 131 of Laggard Pitt, but still quite impressive for the fact that there was no air force a bit earlier on. More top bombers being utilized, and the land invasion now cranking up. We now have T3 factories on the beach of the Northern Rock slot for Lager Berlin, mass producing loyalists by the looks of it. A very, very dangerous unit. And we have Master Fantaster just using some places trying to deal with that. However, now that they are facing loyalists, that is going to be rather ineffective.
Strategic launch detected.
Another nuke launch, this time into the base of, or production base of Master Fantaster. And that will definitely land as there is no more SMD. Another nuke is launched. Those are actually naval nukes. There are 3 nuclear submarines built up by Lagavulin. 3 strategic missile submarines, silencers. And the first nuke definitely lands. The second one is going after the base of, or what remains of the base of Nick, who was trying to rebuild SMD, but with the nuke landing there, that endeavor is going to be completely halted now. And also taking out 3 T3 Maxes. Another very painful loss. Now, where's that last nuke going? I don't know. I might have missed that. But economy-wise, we're now looking at a state of 2.1k mass income for Team 2 against just about 500 for Team 1, for the Northern team. So the Southern team far ahead on their current economic capabilities. We do have AGC for Nick slowly pushing up, trying to take out the mass fab grid right here, taking fire from Megalith, but it actually does make it into range of that. And if it manages to kill off one of these mass fabricators, that entire grid will just chain and detonate, as mass fabricators are massive bombs. However, that is not actually being targeted properly. Okay, there it goes, and there chains the entire grid, as I pointed out. And didn't look at how much deco was lost, but that was definitely far over 100 mass. Possibly something like 200, or possibly even 300 mass right there in income. And those mass fabricator grids are extremely volatile. And if one of those blows, the entire grid goes. Not a nuke. This one, by the looks of it, going after the 3 max expansion up north. Yep. Nothing up there to defend that, so that will die. 3 more T3 maxes going down. Nick now down to 443 mass income. And I completely missed it, but Master Fantastic did end up dying. And with that, Nick is now alone against Leggett and Lagavulin, both of which do significantly out-eco him on their own. And he is basically limited to the northern pond for his current position, as with the mass amounts of units moving around, it is unlikely that he will be capable of holding onto his base. Or what once was his base. In addition to that, of course, also just the nukes, which will also make it extremely hard to hold on to that. The GC, fully vetted, with 90,000 mass killed, definitely paid for itself at this point. That is a very impressive count. Just taking out so much spam. Almost 300 units killed. And just continuing to go on. Just sucking up more units with those tractor claws. And beaming away at anything in the area. Including those loyalists. We do have a big wave of broadswords built up by Leggett Pit, and they will quickly just sweep around anything left off the map that isn't a swarm of Kiefer-class aircraft carriers, at least. Most likely going to take out the remainders of the land base very quickly, or possibly going after the Galactic Colossus to deal with that. And is now going after the Flapjacks. For some reason the beam weapon not firing. Ah, there it is, taking on the Loyalists now. 113,000 mass killed already on that. Truly impressive. But there come the broadswords. And that HP pool is just melting away now. There are a few SAM batteries, but at this amount of broadswords it's nowhere near enough. And there goes the hero Galactic Colossus. It caused so much pain. Another nuke is launched. Not sure where this one is going. I think this might be going after the 3 max expansion up here once again, however there is nothing left up there to nuke.
Strategic launch detected.
Nick actually takes out the broadswords with his ASF force. Let's take another ASF count. We're looking at 231 for Nick. This is very much impressive. Can start at 124 for Leggett Pit. So Nick actually now ahead on ASF numbers. But something I did just realize, and I swapped away from him too soon, he is now completely power locked. While most of his mass income is in Zakus that don't require power to keep producing mass, and the big issue he is facing right now is that he does not have the power to actually spend his mass properly. This might also be down to him currently building a few cells, a few donuts to possibly attempt something. And yes it is, because donuts are very power intensive to build. Now, if you can force an airfight, ideally even above his aircraft carriers, he can almost certainly win air, meaning that he can just send those in and kill off his opponents unopposed. We do now have a solar pulse coming out for Lagavulin. I guess to also help clear out the rest of the land and maybe start a move on to the naval stuff. Soul Rippers, surprisingly powerful, especially with the AoE that they have. The Soul Ripper missiles have a massive AoE range, so you can cause a lot of damage with those. They are surprisingly effective against submarines and such. Just need some micro to actually groundfire that. That Tempest up here with over 100,000 mass killed. God damn. A lot of these units definitely did pay for themselves looking at the mass kill numbers. $14,000 mass killed on an aircraft carrier. Air units usually rather cheap when it comes to the mass costs, so that is truly impressive. Like, a lot of these units did a lot of work. Sounds currently just waiting, I guess preparing for something. Master Fantaster saying no or never, so probably aware of the plan. And this is most certainly a last-ditch play, looking at the overall mass situation. Nick down at 407 mass income against a combined 2,200 mass income from his opponents. There is the nuke, of course. There's the Novax, another thing we have seen a while ago. And there is a Scathus on the way. I'm not sure what the thought behind the Scathus is. Maybe to clear out the aircraft carriers. That's probably it. Escape is usually to bombard bases, but I guess it's also gonna be rather effective in taking out the aircraft carriers, which actually have gone down significantly in amount by seemingly. Yeah, only 31 left, which is more than I thought, but still significantly less than at the start. And there come the SARS. Slowly moving over. Issue has been spotted. Dolboyer pointing out that AA needs to be built. However, I think it is a little too late to now start building mass AA with the SARS already overhead. Lagavulin does end up dying, meaning that this turns into a 1v1. Another nuke flies. This one aimed into this area with the Tempest and the carriers. Only, damaging the Tempest, taking out one battleship. However, the Tempest has more than 70,000 HP, meaning that it can take one shot from a nuke. Scathus does finish, but at this point I would think it is a little too late. The SARS do continue moving on. And at this point it is the inevitable is about to happen. Nick is about to actually win against all odds, considering how the game looked for the last significant amount of time. Taking out Legged Pit. That moves over, and there it goes. Master Fantaster declaring Nick the king of late game. And honestly, I would say that's a fair suggestion. And with that, we have Legged Pit going down and Nick winning. Now, what I pointed out earlier, of course, very important here for to actually achieve that, the Zakus. Like, I feel like the Zakus are probably the only reason Nick was actually able to do this, because he had this massive amount of just mobile economy that once land was lost, he could just move into the water to get safe and keep up the ability to do stuff. And the other thing, well, massive amounts of reclaim have already are gone here. Can I? No, I can't check the amounts of reclaim anymore at this point. But it would be an impressive amount. Basically both of those just allowing Nick to keep up producing. Keep up contesting the situation even though he was significantly behind on map control, significantly behind on economy. Like, behind on map control is probably an understatement. He did not have any landmass. Well, at the end he managed to grab the side island, but still no actual, like, he did not have any control of the mainland at all. And still managed to come out on top due to just mobile economy and reclaim. I hope you enjoyed this. This was streamed live on Twitch. Link to that will be, as per always, down in the description. If you did enjoy it, maybe leave a like, or don't. I can't force you. And if you want to be notified when more casts like these do come out, and I don't know, in half a year or whenever I stop procrastinating editing the Homeworld playthrough, or Homeworld Remaster technically, when that comes out, yeah, you can always subscribe. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Going to be, I hope to see you again in any kind of future content or stream, and till then, bye!